Today I wanted to teach you how to make a basic vinaigrette. Vinaigrettes are, of course, salad dressings. They're also usable as marinades, and they seem to be a big mystery to a lot of people. The simplest vinaigrette is the Italian dressing standard, which is to take your salad bowl, drizzle in a little bit of olive oil, preferably extra virgin, toss it around, add a little vinegar, season it with salt and pepper, and eat. But making your vinaigrette in advance can be a little bit safer, because if you make it in the bowl with the salad and you put in too much oil and drown the lettuce, or too much vinegar and make it too sour to eat, you have no recourse. And the other reason I like making vinaigrettes is because you can vary the flavors so much. So let's talk first about some of the things that you can vary in a vinaigrette. Let's talk first about oil. The standard, of course, is extra virgin olive oil, and this is an excellent California oil. You might find that you like oil from Italy, Spain, Greece. Different olives all have different flavors, but they're all extra virgin, which means it's the first cold press of the olive. And I like grapeseed for the same reason I like olive. It's a food crop oil. Food crops tend to be less pesticide use, less genetic manipulation. I don't like canola oil for that reason. It's a very manipulated and very heavily pesticide-laden crop. Another oil you might use for a salad would be a nut oil. This one is hazelnut oil. If you were making a summer salad with, for instance, peaches and toasted hazelnuts and blue cheese in it, hazelnut oil might make a wonderful oil base. The second thing you can vary in a vinaigrette is the vinegar. Let me talk a little bit about what vinegar is. First of all, vinegar is ethanol, which means wine, fermented cider, fermented any kind of fruit, fermented grain, that is soured by the addition of acetic acid bacteria. And then it's generally aged, because if you do it right away, you'll find that it's very harsh. So they usually age it for 6 months. In the case of good balsamic vinegar, 100 years, which is why the price is so high. So you have lots of varieties of vinegar, and I'm a bit of a vinegar collector. So I have such fun flavors as wild porcini Cabernet and strawberry chipotle cherry, and you know, obviously the balsamics and red and white wine and all the different vinegars that you can get. So you can have your straightforward, good quality vinegar, and I emphasize good quality because you really want your vinegar to be made from wine. You don't want to use, for instance, distilled vinegar in a salad dressing because it has no flavor, it's just strongly acidic. But the other thing about vinegars is that they vary in their acidicness, or acidity, I guess is the right word. From the standard, which is about 6%, rice wine vinegar is usually around 4%, 4.3 sometimes. And my sherry vinegar, one of my favorite vinegars, is 8% acidity. So when you're making a vinaigrette, you'll read in cookbooks that the standard proportion is 3 parts oil, 1 part vinegar. If the acidity is different in the vinegar, that may not hold true. So you have to taste. And I always use a leaf from my salad as the taster because that is how you really tell what it tastes like on a salad. Another thing you can vary in a salad dressing is aromatics. One of the things I like to do is, for instance, just really whack a clove of garlic and peel it and put it in the bowl. And we're going to make the salad dressing, the vinaigrette, in this bowl. And use it to flavor the product, but then take it out before you eat it, because you don't want to find that garlic clove in your salad. So you don't want to put chopped garlic in. It's too strong. The other aromatic I like particularly is shallots. And I have a small shallot here, and I'm only going to use a piece of it. And I want to cut it very finely for this. So I cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut through it very close together with just the tip of my chef's knife. I hold a chef knife so that I have control of it 3 fingers under, 1 thumb and first finger on the blade. And then I take this and I go through it the other direction and simply cut, and you want to end up with this finely chopped shallot. And I'm going to put that in our bowl. And you can see I have maybe 1.5 teaspoons here. You really don't need that much. Now the key here is that you want to macerate your shallot and your garlic in the vinegar before you put any oil in. And so what I'm going to do is I decided today I'm going to use some of this wild porcini Cabernet and where's my sherry vinegar. I'm going to make a sherry red wine vinaigrette. I like the combination. It's just kind of a good one. And I think I will use today a tablespoon of this one, which is the less, this is 6% acidity. And I'm going to add to that maybe 1/2 tablespoon of the sherry vinegar, which has a very different flavor. It has a fruitiness to it. Even though it's higher acidity, it's 8%, it's very fruity and nice. And so I'm going to let those aromatics marinate, and you can see that they're just sitting in there. The garlic's not completely covered. It doesn't matter. It's still going to get its flavor imparted into it. I'm also going to add, a pinch of salt and a little bit of pepper to this. Even though I'm going to season the salad, I want, when I test the dressing, I want to have a little bit of salt and pepper in there so that I can tell what it tastes like. Now there's another ingredient that I like to put in salad dressings, and that is mustard. There's 2 reasons for that. One is flavor, if you think about it, and I have 3 different mustards here. I have a dry mustard powder, which is the most neutral mustard. It's spicy, but it doesn't have a whole lot else added to it. I have a Dijon, and I have a whole grain mustard. And you could vary your flavor by using any or all of these. Today, I think I will use, I think for this salad, I'm just going to use a little bit of the dry powder. And I will probably say 1/2 teaspoon, just right in there. So that's the basics of your salad dressing. And you want this to macerate together for at least 5 minutes before you put the oil in. Now I wanted to talk about the other reason besides flavor for using the mustard, which is that it helps emulsify the dressing. You have oil and vinegar, and typically if you put the vinegar and the oil in a bowl and mix them together, they'd separate and the oil would sit on top of the vinegar. But if you add the mustard, it's going to help emulsify the dressing. So if you're going to whisk in the oil, then you will find that the dressing stays more homogeneous. And it's a little easier to dress your salad that way. So we're just going to let this sit for a couple minutes and then do that. Okay, now we've done our macerating. We've waited about 5 minutes. And I'm going to take the garlic out. This garlic, I can use it for something else, but I do not want to find it in my salad. So now I'm going to take my dressing and I'm going to whisk. Now I put about 1.5 tablespoons of vinegar in there. So theoretically, I'm going to be using about 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup of oil. And I think I'll measure that out for you, and we're going to stop part way and see whether we need it all. Okay, I have my measuring cup. And I'm using extra virgin olive oil today. And I'm going to measure 1/4 cup. And we will experiment and see how it is. Okay, so if you're whisking when you put the oil in, and you go a little bit slowly, you will form this nice little emulsion. And I'll show it to you at the end. So I've added almost all the oil, and I'm going to stop and taste and make sure that we don't need the rest of this oil. You can always, if you add it all, you can always add more vinegar at the end. But if you don't want to make too much dressing, it's easier to stop a little bit, taste. And I'm going to taste with an endive leaf. That is just perfect the way it is. I don't think we need this last couple teaspoons of oil.